Alright, what's up guys? My name is Huski. I'm right here on Fame's World about to do an interview. Really excited to show you guys, upcoming things that's going on in my life, music, and I'm, looking forward for this.
You started off as a little mobile kid, and you started off as a DJ. How does it feel now that you did Lost Lands, and you're growing into bigger parts of the music industry?
I think that was a really great experience for me to, go out of state for my first time. Being able to play for Excisions Festival. It was a really big experience. I was able to meet a lot of new people. Really excited to, create a lot of new music for that kind of event. And, on top of that, I wanted to, do a lot more genres outside of like bass music. So, maybe do more house music, maybe do a little bit much more feature bass. But, you'll still be seeing much more of like, of a bass style version of Huski when it comes to like to a lot of my upcoming tracks in 2019. So, all I can really say is, you're going to see a lot more diversity, a lot more BPM switches, much more different variety in like drums, synth, melody. I'm going to do my own vocals as well, this year, doing more high vocals, doing much more of my own stuff. So I'm looking more forward towards that kind of.
From where you're at right now, where do you see yourself in about a year from now?
A year from now, maybe I like to see myself doing, shows. Minimum, possibly a month. Do more traveling, play more out of state. I'd like to release, much more on bigger labels. Maybe get a release on, Matt Decent, or probably get a release on Disciple. Those kinds of like type of labels get that kind of exposure in their fan base. And really just really work more on my branding and play more shows and get more exposed and get to know more about the other talent, my other colleagues, doing the same thing. We're all just trying to grind out and do this EDM stuff. So, we're all working hard, and we're all making sure that, we're all doing what we're doing to make sure what the next step is for ourselves.
So how did it feel like going from, DJ to producer?
Well, I started off, being a DJ when I was 15 years old. So all I learned was just pretty much going from track A to track B, mixing from track to track. After a while, I did that, doing house parties, doing private events, family parties, weddings, quinceañeras and stuff. I was always mixing hip hop, always mixing, Mexican music, but there was always those times where like my passion for EDM, I always threw in like those like, dope EDM favorites that I enjoyed when I was, living that time of my life. And, after high school, that was when I really branched out into production. I wanted to get serious with my own original music. And after that, I did much more of the production side and did a little bit less of the DJing. Didn't really do much shows, but I was really working hard on a lot of music. And, over the 3 years that I've been producing, I've built a really good, dedicated small fan base. And I'm just looking forward to being able to create more music for new and reoccurring people that, keep messing with my style.
So you just dropped your new EP. How do you feel it's doing, and how's your feedback coming back from that?
I think my new EP right now is doing really well. I mean, for it being my first actual EP, 3 tracks called Dangerous. Bad Boy is one of my first tracks I released as a single before my actual EP release. That one's actually doing really good. We're almost at 8,000 plays within a week, so I'm really truly grateful for for the support on that. Alongside with my other tracks like Humble and Dangerous, shout out to everybody that worked on that EP, including Mark, aka Segura, and Amir. They really dedicated their time to make sure this is exactly what we wanted to push out for this EP, and I'm glad that we're all came to an agreement that this is what we wanted for the track. And everyone had their opinions on the EP as well. What they would have thought could have been cool, or if I would have done this differently, would have sounded better. So it was really good to see a lot of the insight, the differences in opinions, and I got a lot of strong feedback and a lot of positive feedback too. People thought a lot of it was like some of my great stuff. I thought so too. I really did a lot of variation in the tracks and put my heart and passion and time into this EP. So it was my first one, so I wanted to make sure it was good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it was good for sure.
Do you have any new music coming out? Any collabs with any other local artists?
Yeah, I have a couple of collabs coming out. I'm honestly really just kind of postpone the collabs in the meantime. I really just want to start doing more of my originals. Just because I've just noticed with a lot of the collabs recently. You know, it takes a while. You know, trying to get a lot of people on page with like time frames and deadlines. I don't want to be limited to having someone tell me that like I haven't done nothing to the track or I don't have time to work on it. Like I kind of like to work at a really decent pace and I don't want to be limited to anything that's outside of my control. So I want to be able to just work on my music and worry about like my own particular problems or creative limitations that I could deal with myself.
What would you say your music lands in the genre of EDM?
More so like a hybrid, because when you hear my music, you definitely hear that bass style, but tempo wise, I do a lot of BPM switches, so there's a lot of influences of like dubstep, of trap, of house. I don't want to say that I fall like really hard on one. Most of my recent music has been really dubstep, I will say. But I will say, as an artist, I would like to label myself just as a bass artist. I think that's really much more of what I do. That really sums up most of like the music and the kinds of sets that I do for my shows. So it's more bass. I'm a bass artist, and so far my stuff has been recently dubstep, trap stuff, and when you hear my EP, that's really what I've been on recently.
What inspired you to go towards the EDM scene? Like to start making music for the EDM scene.
Oh man, like growing up, like as a teenager, like just like not being able to go to festivals until you were 18. I was like watching sets of like Afrojack, Sidney Samson, all these EDM big cats. Back in 2012, 2013. They were my biggest influences. So being able to do something like that, required me to get more into the EDM industry, and I definitely know that was the kind of industry I wanted to get into. So I had to figure out exactly what I needed to do to become more, to contribute more within that industry and be able to be a part of that movement. So I took it upon myself to learn production outside of high school, and I went to EDC right when I turned 18 for my first time to Las Vegas, and I was motivated, man. After that, went home, downloaded FL Studio, and then that's pretty much it, dude. Now we're here.
So you recently started doing the low end projects, and so from that point of view, they've been doing great. Your last show I actually went to, and it was fucking great event. Do you see yourself pushing a lot more towards that way, or towards your music, or trying to equal it out to where you're doing events, making music?
When I do low end, I do it with the intent of trying to put a lot of my homeboys and my homegirls on there. So I'll put myself on the show. However, that's really much more of like me trying to do it for the community, to bring a platform for a lot of people, and for me to be able to showcase myself as well. Because I'm not really getting a lot of gigs every month as much as I want to. So whenever I do that, I'm most of the time on the lineup. But when we do it on a bi-weekly basis, then sometimes I'll take myself off on the lineup to put somebody else on, because you got to give some time to some other people that I feel deserve to work and deserve to get on the lineups. Last event, I was able to put a lot of my friends on there. Hardworking cats that been working with music, and generous. Not shady or nothing like that. So they all had a good turnout. They all had good positive responses from like everybody that attended the event. It was packed. So. I want to thank everybody that was a part of that, and I still want to keep doing these low end events. Keep on inviting local talented producers to come out and do their thing. Give them a platform to expose themselves, and I hope that it gets bigger, because the more it gets bigger, the bigger and the better for artists and people to come there, have a party, and for other artists to get known, and just to build a community, man, build a family outside of like our actual family.
Is there a particular artist that got you into the music that you do, like that inspired your music personally?
Hardwell, for sure, dude. Hardwell has to be the origin. After that, dude, Hardwell, Tonic / Duro, and I don't know, dude. I really could just say about Hardwell, to be honest.
What are some of your biggest motivations to continue in the music scene? It's a hard hard scene to get into. It's hard to get recognized. There's so many people, especially now. There's been in the last year a big spring in like a lot of artists and a lot of people jumping into the scene. What keeps you motivated to keep it going?
I think it's just the doubt and the prediction that others have for you when you tell them about like your plan. You know, it's really more of the doubt that I encounter when I tell people my goals, and they just tell me like, oh well, you know, like that doesn't seem sustainable and stuff. So I think it's much more me wanting to prove a point, and not more so I just really just want, that's the shit I love doing, you know. Like that's really why I'm motivated. It's because I like doing that shit. I love that shit. People do that shit sometimes, you know, just for the gram or just to fucking do it, like, or just to be in some sort of fame. But you know, I've been doing this since I was 15. Like, you know, I love doing this shit. Like, I love DJing. I love, you know, expressing my passion. You know, being able to make a crowd get turned, have a good time, you know, with their best friends. So I think that right there, you know, once I discovered that at a young age, I definitely wanted to, you know, hold on to that, and I'm still am. So, I mean, as long as I'm living, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still gonna want to do it. And if I'm still doing it, and you know, I get big, keep on getting big, or you know, get into much more bigger adventures with it, then you know, more power to myself and to everybody that's around me that I could help out alongside with that too. So, I mean, you know, more opportunity the better.
So I noticed a particular thing about you. You went from koala to husky, right?
Yes.
Is there something about you that you like animals so much that you keep it in the animal realm? And what inspired the name Husky?
You know what? I'm not really sure exactly what went from like animal to animal change in terms of like DJ names, but I will say the reason why I chose Husky is because when I look up the spirit animal of a Husky, it really the characteristic traits of it really defines somebody who I am. You know, Huskies, you know, they're destined to be leaders. You know, a person that leads a pack. You know, they got their own little squad. You know, they're aware. You know, they're observant. You know, they don't really give into any gullible stuff. You know, they'll take it with a grain of salt, and you know, they're mostly a man in themselves. They make their own decisions for themselves, and you know, they get through a lot of stuff thick through thin. And I feel like just everything that meant for a Husky was definitely, you know, my soul to it. So I really like the idea of calling myself to what my actual spirit animal was. So
very cool. If you could say anything to, you know, the younger kids barely getting into the music scene and getting into producing, you know, would you have any words for them?
Dude, make music. That's it. Just make music. You know, create a really cool name. Think about it. Make cool music. Release it. You know, don't wait on labels. Sometimes they sometimes wait. And they sometimes like take a year and a half to get back to you just to say that no, that we don't want it. So honestly, keep on making music. Don't wait for, you know, labels. Or don't stop making music and wait on labels. Like, keep making music as you're waiting on labels. Like, always keep on working on content. Like, you know, download off the studio, download whatever you got to. Like, crack that shit. You know, if you don't got the money, honestly, like, just start getting into it and start making the music and release music. Like, that's all. Like, number one advice is release music.
All right, man. So where can we find your music at?
You can find my music on Huski, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music. You know, whatever music app you use on your phone or on your laptop. SoundCloud.com/HVSKI music. I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere. I mean, fuck, if LimeWire was still there, I'd be on LimeWire too and shit. So, shit.
All right, man. Well, it was good having you on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And, it's always a good time with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me in this interview, man. Just want to, you know, spread love and, you know, create a community.